Hi folks, welcome to another Rewind the Gig video, and in today's video I'm going to take you back to the year 2001. So to set the scene, what was happening in the year 2001? Well, I'll take you back through some of the news stories from this year. I'll then talk about some of the TV shows that debuted in the UK, and talk about a special appearance by yours truly on a popular TV game show. I'll then talk about some of the films that were out, and the top 3 singles in the UK charts. I'll then move on to some of the rock and metal album releases from this year, some of the ones that mean a bit more to me. And then lastly, I'll talk about the gigs that I went to, finishing up on an unforgettable gig that took place at Glasgow Green called Gig on the Green. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Ricky and my channel is called Rewind the Gig. Okay, so firstly I just want to say a big thank you to any of my returning viewers and to those of you who have subscribed to my channel. If some of you haven't subscribed and you do watch, then it would really help me out if you did subscribe. I'm trying to reach the 2,000 figure. There might also be a few folk watching here who have recently subscribed during the last week or so. I obviously went to the Skunk Anansie concert and went to the Manic Street Preachers twice, and uploaded some really good highlights from both gigs, and I did reviews in the videos, so I was really pleased. There's quite a lot of comments on those videos, so if you're watching, then thanks a lot for your comments. I do always try and reply to the comments that are left in the channel. And also lastly, a big thank you to any of those new subscribers that have joined in the last week or so. Okay, so I'm assuming that most people watching my channel are regular gig goers like myself, and I wonder if any of you actually go to concerts and wear any sort of earplug to protect your ears. The reason I'm saying that is basically a couple of years ago I found that when I was going to gigs, I was coming back and at night I was trying to sleep and I could hear this buzzing in my ears, and then I would hear it the next day as well, and it seemed to be getting worse and worse. So I was actually worried about the long-term effects of tinnitus. So I invested in a wee pair of earplugs. I'll leave a link in the description below. So they come in like a wee case like this, which has got a wee handle on it. So you can clip that on to like your jeans or a bag or a purse, etc. You get 2 sets of these. You get a normal set and you get a smaller one. It also comes with a carry case which you can link round it, and it comes with a wee brush for cleaning it. So this obviously will help with any hearing. I found that it helps me a lot, especially when I go to venues like the garage. I just think it's so loud in there and it's definitely needed. Now, I had the opinion that if I put them in it would stop me enjoying the music. It doesn't, because I don't actually, sometimes I don't put it all the way in. You can put it like that and sort of pull it out a wee bit, but it's got a special filter on it, so you still hear the music well and it just stops you getting the loud noise. So I'll put a wee description below if you want to check it out. Okay, so obviously the most famous news event in 2001 was on a really sad note, and this was the terrorist attacks that took place on September the 11th, or known as 9/11 because of the way the Americans say the date. So basically you had 19 terrorists hijacked 4 planes. 2 of them were destined for New York and 2 were destined for the capital, Washington. So what happened was they took over the planes, and one of them flew into the Twin Towers in New York at the World Trade Center about 9:38 in the morning, and then there was a second plane crashed into the other tower about 17 minutes later. So it was clear, because there'd been 2 planes going in, that this wasn't just an accident as was maybe first feared. And then about an hour later, news broke that another plane had got into the Pentagon in Washington, and then later on that another plane had crashed down in Pennsylvania. So these terrorist attacks were orchestrated by Al-Qaeda, and the mastermind behind it was thought to be Osama bin Laden. I remember seeing the images and it was just shocking. You thought it was like something out of a movie, like horrible, sickening scenes, like if people jumping out the building because they obviously didn't want to go and fire and and the building was going to collapse. I mean, it's the biggest terrorist attack to date. The deaths from it were just under 3,000 people lost their lives. Okay, so on a cheerier note, this was the year that Wikipedia was founded, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with that site. So this is an online encyclopedia where you can basically find out about anything, and these are kept up to date by people called Wikipedians. And basically, you can look up a film and you can find out how much it made, who starred in it, what the plot was, how how it was reviewed by critics. You can look up bands, which I do, and you can find out past and present band members. You can find out albums that were released, and it's a really good tool and one that I use near enough every day. And I get the pop-up page asking me to donate to it because it is a free site, so I do try and donate a couple of quid twice a year whenever that pops up. I really do love it. So Wikipedia, yeah, great site. It was also a good leap forward in technology, in that this was a year that iTunes and iPod was basically released. So I loved this. This was when music went digital, and basically you could store your music on devices such as iPods. I actually have a classic one here that's 160 gig worth. So I could get all my music in that, and I set up a whole bunch of playlists. So I could have like all my favourite Iron Maiden songs, or my Alter Bridge, or the Wild Hearts, all in one order, and you could change it about and create numerous different playlists, and it was just a place to carry all your music about with you. Okay, so now to the TV shows of 2001, and the first programme I'll talk about was The Office. And this was a sitcom directed and created by Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant. There was 2 seasons of it, and there was 14 episodes, including a Christmas special. So this it was basically around a fictional paper company, and it followed the day-to-day lives of the employees, and it was basically their interactions with each other and their boss. I personally found it really funny because I work in that environment, so I get it. I get that people don't always get on with everybody that they work with, and especially their bosses. And I thought it was really funny, but then I know other people that just didn't find it funny at all. I know some people aren't that keen on Ricky Gervais, but I thought the character that he played in it, David Brent, was really funny. And probably most famously, there was an episode where it was based in comic relief, and they were trying to outdo each other with scenes. And he comes and he does this wacky dance. You've probably seen it. I'll show it at the end of the clip. But yeah, I thought it was really funny and enjoyed watching it. Okay, we also had the launch of Pop Idol, which was a reality TV programme in which contestants would sing, and each week the audience would vote for their favourite singers until it was down to like 2 remaining. And the 2 that were remaining this year were Will Young and Gareth Gates. I remember this being hyped in the media. I did actually watch some of the shows. It was much fancied that Gareth Gates would beat Will Young and lift the crown. However, it was Will Young that was announced the winner. But both of them would go on to have some decent success, and this show would later be replaced by The X Factor, with Simon Cowell creating it. Okay, so now to the last TV show that I'll talk about, and this was Wheel of Fortune. And I actually got to appear on that. So what happened is, in my previous work in the Bank of Scotland, I would finish early and I would be home in time, and I would watch Wheel of Fortune. It used to be on between 5:30 and 6. And obviously, if you don't know the game show, I'm sure most of you do, it's basically based off of Hangman, where there'll be a clue to solve. There'll be like a famous phrase or a famous person, or a book or a film or something, and you have to give out vowels or consonants and see if they appear in that slogan, and then you've got to try and solve it, and you'd spin a wheel and there'd be a cash prize associated to the value of that, and whoever got the most money would go into the final. And I think it was to play for £5,000 for this one. So what happened is, I was watching these shows and I found that I was quite good at always solving them. So when it came up at the end saying they were looking for contestants, I wrote away thinking I wouldn't hear anything, but A few months later, I actually got an interview and I went up to the STV studios at the top of Glasgow, went in on my lunch and met them, had the interview. They seemed pretty happy with me. And then I never heard anything for about 18 months. And then I was working and I got a phone call saying, "Hi, this is STV Studios. Are you available to come in and participate in the Wheel of Fortune today? We had somebody from London that can't make it and we know that you're nearby." So I took a half day and I went and I appeared on the show, and you went in and you went down to the studio and you had got a go at like spinning the wheel and they told you what was going to happen. So this was presented by John Leslie at the time, and it was meant to also be with Jenny Powell, but she had just given birth, or she was pregnant at the time. So it was another girl, it was Terry, who would actually go on to date Simon Cowell the next year, Terry Seymour. So we went down and we filmed it. Now, it wasn't actually filmed in front of a live studio audience. I know that they've revamped the game show in recent years and they play for a lot more money, and I think it's Graham Norton that's doing the show at the moment. But it was a great experience. Now, unfortunately, I did not win anything on it. I remember that I answered the first question correctly and I got in there and I was doing okay. I was getting the letters and I think that I had a good idea of what the slogan was, and then I landed in like a miss a turn or a bankrupt, and so I never get in to win a prize. So one girl, she won like 3 of them, another one won the other prize. So I didn't actually win any, but I came like second out of 3, but I narrowly missed out to the girl who'd won 3 of the prizes. So she went on to play for the jackpot, but she didn't solve it and she didn't win it. Now, I'm annoyed. I did actually record the show on video cassette at the time, and there was people in my work that had seen it. And yeah, I binned it. I basically binned the video cassette when I was moving from the flat. And yeah, I'm annoyed. I've actually wrote to STV Studios to see if they've got the episode, because I had the episode number on the back of the photograph, but the footage is no longer sat with them, so I don't think I'll ever get to see it. I was always hoping that it might pop up in like the Challenge TV and see these old episodes, but sadly not. So yeah, that's a wee bit of a claim to fame. Got to meet John Leslie. I got the shitty wee Wheel of Fortune watch, which actually broke about a day later. I don't have it now. I think I threw it out. I mean, it was probably worth about £2 or £3, just terrible. But yeah, it was great to be on that, and you know, not a lot of folk can say that they've been on a game show. Okay, so now to the movies of 2001, and I'll not talk long about these because I know I've sort of gone on about the game show and taken up some of the time, so I'm very conscious of that. So there was quite a lot of good films out in this year. Okay, so the top film for this year was Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, and this grossed $975 million, and it was obviously based off of J.K. Rowling's 1997 novel, and it stars Daniel Radcliffe as Harry Potter, and it follows his first year exploits at the Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. I love watching these films, you know, they're great, especially around Christmas time, and I'm hopeful that I'll be able to show them to my wee daughter Rosie in a couple of years when she's old enough to watch them. I'm sure she will love them. Okay, the second most popular film of this year was Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, and this was an adaptation of the 1954 novel by J.R.R. Tolkien, and it was directed by Peter Jackson. Okay, so it's set in Middle-earth and tells the story of the Dark Lord Sauron, who seeks the One Ring to return to power. Frodo Baggins has been given the ring, and he sets off for the land of Mordor, the only place where the ring can be destroyed. I thought this was a great film, right? And I remember coming out the cinema though and saying to my pal, Jason, I was like, right, this is great. It was 2.5 hours. I was just really getting into that. I says, but what happens? Like, you still get the ring? Like, you know, I don't get it. So I didn't know that this was based off of a book, and I didn't know that there was 3 novels. So I was like, well, I'm going to wait another 2, 3, 4 years until the next film, and then the film after that, or you could just read the books. So yeah, he found that quite funny that I didn't know this was based off of a book. I don't really read books, I've only read biographies, so I didn't know that. I felt like a fool afterwards. Some of the other popular movies from this year were Monsters Inc. That was an animated comedy film by Walt Disney, and it features two monsters, Sully and Mike, who are employed at Monsters Inc. and have to return home a wee girl called Boo. And they basically scare kids at night, and they harness the power of their screams for energy. Shrek was also another animated film this year. It was the fourth best-selling film, and you'll have seen that, Shrek the Green Ogre, and there's been a few subsequent films. There's also Ocean's 11, which did very well. It had an all-star cast, including Brad Pitt, George Clooney, Matt Damon, Julia Roberts, and it centred around a $160 million heist from a casino. Okay, so the top selling 3 songs in the UK this year were, number 3 was Kylie Minogue with Can't Get You Out of My Head. And I thought this was a really catchy number. I think I bought Kylie Minogue's greatest hits just because it's one of those ones, you know, so many songs. And I thought this was really catchy. That's the one with the na 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 na. You probably know it, and I'm not doing it justice, but a good wee catchy song, I thought. Number 2 was Pure and Simple by Hearsay, and this was another one of these kind of bands manufactured, put together, and they had some success in the charts. And the number 1 selling single with over 1 million copies was Shaggy with the song It Wasn't Me. And I actually bought the CD single of this. I thought it was pretty good. It features lyrics from a Jamaican rapper called Rick Rock. He's the one with the kind of nice melodic, well, singing most of the kind of vocals on it before Shaggy comes in with his unforgettable sound. But yeah, I thought it worked well. I thought that's a really good song, and still don't mind when you hear that getting played from time to time. Okay, so I also want to give a shout out to songs that did well from a sort of rock perspective. So there was a number 1 for the band Crazy Town with Butterfly, and I'm sure you remember that song. It goes, come my lady, come my lady, you're my butterfly, sugar, baby. And there was also a number 1 on the Billboard of Modern Rock for Stained with It's Been a While. And also in the same chart, you had success for Incubus with Drive, which is a really good song. I heard that not long ago when I was watching a programme called Beef on Netflix, and it featured in that, which stems from like a road rage incident, and it's a really good watch. And I thought it was funny when that song came on, and they also, I think, had Hoobastank with The Reason, which is another good song. But anyway, I'm drifting a wee bit. You also had success in the UK rock and metal charts for Linkin Park. They released the songs Paper Cut and In the End. Okay, so now to the rock and metal album releases of 2001 that I remember. And first up is an album by the band called American Head Charge, and that is called The War of Art. And this was a 16-track, 67-minute long album produced by Rick Rubin, and it had a really good single from it, Just So You Know is the name of it, and some of you have probably heard this. I would go on to see this band a couple of times in the following years. Okay, another album which I bought this year was by the band P.O.D, which stands for Payable in Death. And this was a band from San Diego, California. And they basically they were an fusion of like rap and hip hop with rock elements, crossing into sort of new metal genre. So the album had 15 tracks on it, and it lasted 52 minutes, I think. And it included 4 songs as singles, which were Alive, which was the first track I ever heard, Youth of the Nation, Boom, and Satellite. And I really liked this, and I would go on to see them in concert. I think it might have been 2002 when I go to see them. But yeah, it was a good wee album. Okay, another album which I bought from this year was Iowa by the band Slipknot. And this was a 14-track album lasting 66 minutes long. And the 3 favourite songs from that album for me are the Heretic Anthem, People Equal Shit, and Left Behind. Okay, another album which I bought this year was Toxicity by the band System of a Down, and I really love this album. I would say that this is my most favourite System of a Down album. I know the band have sort of gone on record as saying that Steal This Album is their favourite album, but this for me had so many songs on it that I just thought, oh, that's a killer track, or that's a good one. I don't think there's a filler song on it. There's songs on it such as Prison Song and Needles and Jet Pilot, Deer Dance, and then probably maybe most famously Toxicity and Aerials off it. And yeah, it's a brilliant album. It's got 15 tracks, although it's only about 43 minutes long or so. I have talked about them before in previous years. I think they're one of those bands you either love them or hate them. I really like what they do. I think their songs are short, snappy, catchy, some catchy choruses in it and some shouty elements to it as well. And yeah, a band that I was desperate to try and see and I would get to see in future years. Okay, the last album that I'll talk about from this year is by a band that I'm really passionate about, and that is Thursday. And the album is called Full Collapse, and it has 12 songs on it and lasts about 42 minutes. It had singles from it called Understanding in a Car Crash and also Cross Out the Eyes. So Thursday are basically like an emo band from New Jersey, and I really love them. I like that style of music. I've talked about it before in some of my videos where you've got clean vocals and unclean vocals, and the lead vocalist for the band is Jeff Rickley, and some of the shouty unclean vocals are done by the guitarists. And yeah, I really like it. They came to my attention. I didn't actually buy this album in 2001. It would be 2002, I think, before I would hear about them. They basically had the song Cross Out the Eyes as part of one of those monthly Metal Hammer albums where you get different tracks on it. And I just remember hearing this song and thinking that's really good. And I went out and bought the album. So there's some songs on there as well, really good, such as Paris in Flames, Wind Up, and How Long Is the Night. And I really love it. As I say, I think they're such a good band. I've done a video on them before. And not so long ago, they actually released an album, which a lot of bands are doing, where they're going back and revisiting and playing like their most popular or their early album. So yeah, check it out, guys. So Thursday, Full Collapse, really good album in my opinion. Okay, so now to the gigs. So the first one that I went to was Megadeth, and this was back at the Barrowlands. And this was part of The World Needs a Hero tour, promoting the album of the same name. Now, they played 16 songs that night, and they only actually played 2 songs from the album, which probably tells you that they didn't think the album was that strong, and they played material from, most of their other albums. I was okay with that because, I was seeing Megadeth because I really like songs like Hangar 18, Symphony of Destruction, Sweat and Bullets, Peace Sells But Who's Buying. So it was kind of similar to the 1997 set list, but I was okay with that. And this was the second time, obviously, that I've seen Megadeth. Okay, so the next gig I'll talk about was The Almighty. And this was actually at the Cat House in Glasgow. So this was the 4th time that I would see The Almighty. And the previous 3 occasions were all at the Barrowlands. So I think this shows you maybe a sort of wee decline in popularity after some of their latest album releases. And I'll be honest, I don't really kind of remember the gig at all. It's difficult. Like, I've seen The Almighty over a dozen times, so see when you're trying to think back, like, it is really hard to try and remember one gig from another when you don't have footage. So this was part of the reason why I started my YouTube channel in the first place, and would try and upload a couple of clips from it so that when I'm looking back in future years, it'll jog my memory, or that's what they sounded like, and I can maybe visualise it and remember it. And also as a legacy for my daughter, so she can see what her dad was into and what kind of music I liked. But yeah, I can't really say much about the gig because I don't really remember that much about it. I couldn't find anything on the set list on it, but I'm assuming that they probably just did a mix of all different songs from, Soul Destruction album and Power Tripping. If you were there, then help me out in the comments with any memories. I think it's one of those, if I'd only seen the Almighty once or twice, then I'm more likely to remember it. But I'm sure I probably had this t-shirt on for it. Okay, next one I'll talk about was Bjorn Again, and that's at the Barrowlands. And this is the second time that I saw this ABBA tribute. I mean, it's a good night. What's not to like? It's an ABBA tribute band playing the songs in a really party atmosphere and at a great venue like the Barrowlands. So, playing songs like Waterloo, Mamma Mia, Dancing Queen. I went with a few girl pals from memory, and yeah, makes for a good party night. So yeah, it was a really enjoyable gig. Okay, so I normally go through my gigs in date order. However, I've purposely left this one out until the last because I think it's the most memorable one, and this was called Gig on the Green. And this took place at Glasgow Green, and it was over a couple of days. However, I only went to the Saturday showing because I wasn't that keen on the bands that were playing on the Sunday. It cost £35, which was quite a lot of money back then. It doesn't even seem like a lot now. You're lucky if you get to see a band for that amount. But anyway, it was a nice sunny day when we went. I went with a few friends, and the lineup was looking great for it. Top of the bill was Eminem, and then you had Marilyn Manson. We also had, I don't quite remember the sort of running order underneath, but you had Queens of the Stone Age appearing, The Cult, Alien Ant Farm, Papa Roach, and Stained. I think that was the full lineup. There was also like a sort of DJ tent on it. I think Paul Van Dyke might have been playing at it. And there was 30,000 people went on both days. So it's weird, I'm thinking back and thinking that you could maybe have got a lot more people into it than that. Strange that it was only 30,000 people. I thought it might have been more than that. So I remember that Alien Ant Farm were one of the bands that were first on, and they had just had a wee bit of commercial success with the Smooth Criminal song. And so we saw them, but because it's obviously a kind of festival day, like the bands lower down the bill only got to do a few songs, so about 4 or 5 songs. It was a really short set. Okay, I'm not sure who was on next. I think it might have been Papa Roach. I know they were on quite early and it was really sunny at the time. And my mate Sparky thought it was funny because Jacoby was whacking the mic off his head during some of the songs. I do recall that he used to do that quite early on. He used to just hit it off there. I don't know if it was during a particular song or just in general, but I think he used to like end up with his head getting cut. So I think he's obviously stopped doing that. But I don't have the songs from this, but I think they've obviously played a lot of the songs from the Infest album. I do recall vaguely, I think, them playing Last Resort. I'm assuming that they did, Between Angels and Insects and Dead Cell and songs like that, but it's quite hard trying to remember back. But it was good to see Papa Roach. That was the first time that I'd see them, although I would get to see them in 2002, so stay tuned for that. Okay, so I also got to hear the band Stained for the first time. And again, I think theirs was quite a short set list, although I don't actually have the set list to hand. I think they played Mud Shovel and obviously the song that I talked about earlier, It's Been a While. So yeah, that was the first time I got to hear them. I'm pretty sure they were either on like before Papa Roach or just after. I'm pretty sure they were low down in the bill. Another band that played on this amazing bill was The Cult, and they played 10 songs, and this is one I actually do have the set list for. So when you look through this is a traditional kind of festival set list whereby they play the greatest hits, and it had Little Devil on it, Firewoman, Love Removal Machine, and yeah, brilliant. This was the first time I got to see The Cult, and I would go on to see them several more times in subsequent years. I thought they were put on a really good show. Okay, another band that I got to see for the first time was Queens of the Stone Age, and that is another one that I managed to find the set list for. So they played 9 songs. Now, I'm not really a massive Queens of the Stone Age fan. I know the opener that they did, which is Feel Good Hit of the Summer, and to be honest, I don't know any of the other songs, and I can't really remember it from the gig, what they were like. Okay, so second top in the bill was Marilyn Manson. And I remember the hype around him coming to Glasgow. There was quite a few sort of protest groups and things about him being a devil worshipper and the lyrics in his song, and there was protesters on the day and stuff like this. But he put on a good show, did like 11 songs. Again, it was like a sort of greatest hits set, including like The Beautiful People and the fight song. And I managed to find some photographs of it, and it was great just seeing him there in the flesh. As I say, I wouldn't call myself like the biggest Manson fan, and it's not one that I would listen to from time to time, but I kind of know most of the popular hits. But it was great to have these artists coming to Glasgow and showcasing their talents. Okay, so now to the main event itself. So this was Eminem that was topping the bill. So I was super excited for this on the run up to him coming to Glasgow. I remember there was quite a lot of like protest groups that were bothered about him and Manson, about the anti-Christian messages in some of their music, and there were protests outside. However, it didn't dampen my enthusiasm for it, and super excited to have him come to Glasgow. So he was massive at the time. He was coming hot off with the success of the Marshall Mathers album, and the year before he had the Slim Shady EP. And there's some really good songs, so I was looking forward to hearing those live. So earlier on in the day, we were meant to have the band D12, which he was part of, perform. And I don't know why, but they didn't perform. I don't know if there wasn't time or if they weren't there, or I don't know. I don't know if somebody watching this can let me know why that didn't happen. But I do remember that when he came on stage, like the first few songs were all like D12 numbers, and I wasn't familiar with that. Okay, so 15 minutes into the set, there was a bit of a crush happening at the front of the stage. It was obviously dark because he didn't come on stage till about 10 o'clock at night, and people were getting crushed at the front. So they had him speak to the crowd and try and appease for people to step back. I remember him addressing the Glasgow audience with the way that the Americans can't say Glasgow, and it was Glasgow, Glasgow. It's like, if you don't chill the fuck out and step back, like they're going to make me go off stage. So he did actually go off stage anyway. He went off stage for about half an hour, and I think there was about 40 odd people treated for minor injuries for the crushing at the front. So they came back on, and when they came back on, they played the song Stan. And I remember him appealing to the crowd saying, the chick that normally sings this with me isn't here tonight. So obviously he was referring to Dido, who he does a cover of the song Thank You, and he calls it Stan. And it's one of the most sort of famous, or my favourite songs. And he had the crowd sing the sort of Dido part. And yeah, it was good. So I mean, there was 13 songs in total. However, I think like 6 of them were sort of D12 numbers. So it would have been great personally if it was sort of more of his own stuff. But I don't know if that was to make up for the fact that D12 didn't appear earlier in the day. But we did get some of his sort of more popular hits in there. So we did get to hear like Marshall Mathers and Criminal, and then they finished in the D12 number Purple Pills, which I think is probably the only D12 song that I knew. So yeah, probably about an hour in total if you take out the delay time, and maybe we'd have got more songs if there hadn't been that half-hour delay. So yeah, great to see him though, and as I say, it was the first and only time that I've seen Eminem, and it was a bit sort of starstruck because he was like massive at that moment in time. Okay, so here's a wee sneak preview to next week's 2002 video, where I will be talking about Gig in the Green again, where I saw bands such as The Prodigy and The Offspring and Slipknot. And I'd just like to say, if you were at any of these gigs that I talked about, or you saw the bands or artists on any of the UK, European or world shows, let me know in the comments. It might help re-jog my memory of how good or bad these shows were. And until next time, have a good day.